It's a fact you're not here. You ain't even real, but you still bring me fear. You make my bones so tired that my soul stands up. But now I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. It's like I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. Oh.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to The Working Wing, the podcast where every week we watch some episodes of The West Wing and break them down from our own unique working leftist perspective. My name is Tim Schultz, and joining me, as always, my dear friend, longtime debate partner, and a man who is still waiting to hear from the Biden administration about this guy from Xanadu on his front lawn, Killian Collins.
This guy from Zan. I forgot about that.
Look, they'll be responding to your lawsuit any moment, I'm sure.
Yeah, as they do. Yeah, as they do with every really righteous cause for taking
exactly
the country back. Yes. But we have 2 episodes to go over. We have the first one. We have is the Women of Qumar, not Qatar.
Yeah. Not Qatar. Basically, I think this was a legal issue where they had to basically make up a Middle Eastern country to use for this episode to avoid any political/legal consequences.
Which is pretty funny because it's just like it's meant to have all this courage of taking on this big issue, but it's also like too afraid to mention them by name.
Exactly. We're not actually going to say the word Saudi Arabia in this episode, but man,
we're not actually going to say Qatar because they're clearly just saying Qatar, but it's just like Qumar, and I'm like, I throughout this whole episode, I kept like writing down Qumar ? Like this like fake country that's obviously trying to like be like, oh, Qatar, that peninsula, or that Arabian Peninsula.
Yeah.
That has like all these problems that we have a hand in majorly. And that we need to keep on bringing democracy to, that has all these resources specifically that like we need to just keep involving ourselves in.
Yeah. So I think it's important to keep in mind that I think this episode was maybe one of the first that Sorkin wrote after 9/11.
Oh, this is one of the first he wrote after?
I think so. Like, you can kind of see a like sharp political shift, and I think we'll see more of that as the season goes on. But this was the conversation at the time, right? Like the West was kind of remembering that the Middle East existed at this time, and there was just a lot of discussion, kind of like the stuff you heard in this episode in the months after 9/11.
Yeah, like a lot of the talking about like, wow, wouldn't the Middle East be better if it was more like the West in this regard?
Right, exactly.
With also the biggest problem of the West not realizing is that, well, we don't really have it all figured out either.
We don't really have it all figured out either, but I mean, yeah, it's a tricky fucking question. Indeed.
Yeah. Because I still am more on the side of like, well, let's get our own shit like set up first and know what, and like have our society like all built up. And like have our human rights like fully met before we start running at other countries yelling about because usually it's like these human rights that we're going in there for are like not even rights we're like really fully affording our own people, our own citizens, mind you. Not even like not to mention the people that we're exploiting in territories and areas that America just owns but doesn't like make a state, that doesn't want to incorporate the same rights. But anyway, I digress again. Starting off this episode, we have CJ being pressed by the press as per usual about the president being sued. Some report from the Rocky Mountain Herald or the Rocky Mountain News, and Tony tells her that there's going to be a veterans group that wants to be absent from this Pearl Harbor exhibit. For some reason or another, they're boycotting it, which is with the most boomer way to protest ever is just refuse to buy shit. That's their fucking only weapon.
Well, it's like, it's like a group of veterans who are being honored at this event and they don't want to show up.
Yeah. Then Sam is running around, freaking out about the president being sued by the
Yeah,
news. Like he's freaking out about
Sam
it.
is on one in this episode
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, and you've mentioned this before. There's like this arc throughout this for Sam, where like Sam is becoming less and less of that main character vibe, and he's becoming much more.
He's that wacky guy in the background.
The wacky guy who's like freaking out, being like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna spit facts here and there. Here, did you know this? Did you know this? My nose is buried in this right now. I'm just freaking out. I need to figure this out." Like he's just the manic character. While Josh,
Josh is the serious lead character who does the politics stuff. Sam is just whatever.
Who does the flirting with the women? He's now the Sorkin character.
Yeah,
he's now the Sorkin character.
Yes, he's the one with the tension with Mary Louise Parker for sure.
Well, and like two other, and two other people too. On top of that, but apparently, like what the president is being sued over is many years ago during some speech during some fundraising conference, he was asked a question about
seatbelt laws.
Yes, about seatbelt laws, and apparently New Hampshire has like no mandatory seatbelt law there, but the president had said, like, in response to like some question about that, being that, well, everything's got risks. Everything has got risks, like whether wearing a seatbelt or not, or using a car that doesn't have an airbag or something.
Right. Yeah. I think the question was about airbags, and he brought up, seatbelts can get jammed and stop you from getting out of a wreck. No one is saying don't wear your seatbelt.
But it's like if you get in a particular type of wreck, like that can be a factor.
Yeah, it seems like truly a totally bogus lawsuit.
Right, it is. Right. It does, because it comes about like some people, a couple that like got into a car accident, and the woman survived and the husband died and he had a seatbelt off, and that's supposed to be Bartlet's fault. But like that's exactly. It seems like a frivolous lawsuit, and right away it's another non-issue that's made into like a whole plot point. So it's like Sam could give a bunch of exposition about like, did you know this? Did you know this about seatbelts? Did you know this about seatbelts?
Yeah.
And he was really committed to making a national seatbelt law, like a federal seatbelt law to go into effect, just because New Hampshire doesn't have one.
Yeah, just to cover the president's ass.
Yeah. The president is then. The president then briefly has, as a CJ follows him into the office, or not CJ. And Toby's following around the president, and Toby sees. Is it Toby or Josh who sees it? Sees this weapons deal to Qumar.
I think it's Toby.
Okay. Yeah.
Because Bartlet tells Toby, give CJ the briefing material about this weapons deal, but do a soft touch because I don't like how the women look at me whenever we do deals with these Middle Eastern countries.
Yeah, I don't like how they look at me.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's not like the he doesn't care about like the tricky like moral and geopolitical calculations that come with these deals. It's just that the women look at him funny.
I mean, thank God like they don't have poor people at the White House, because it's like you won't be able to see like what you're fucking them over.
It'd be very uncomfortable for him if there were any pores in the White House. For sure.
They got their poorest person is Charlie, and things
But Charlie gets it. He's one of the good ones.
Oh yeah, no, things hadn't changed much from the FDR days. Like honestly, they kept their lowest.
That's true.
Yeah. So he said the president's also selling weapons to Qumar for their 10-year lease agreement for a military base. Hooray!
Yeah, hooray! And they get a whole bunch of tanks and rockets in exchange for this deal.
800 more. And then Abby talks to Josh in the office, and she confronts him about it was a UN charter or UN law, so something that's going to go into effect about sex trafficking, and the language in there specifically about forced prostitution as
opposed to consensual legal prostitution.
Yes.
And in countries where prostitution is legal.
And Abby wanted to get that removed to just basically make it easier to go after sex traffickers.
Yes, and I have more thoughts about this, but we'll get to that, I think, as we get into this issue.
But all I really wrote down about that afterwards is that Josh looks kind of uncomfortable talking about women's issues at all. And I'm like, yeah, this would be a good issue to have for like, maybe that one, like, Ainsley or any of that. Like
Ainsley or like if they had any female political operatives in this White House, that would be a good issue to put on their plate. But
especially because this episode's like already like CJ has to give. We'll get to that what she gets to later, but this is like CJ's episode, and it's like they throw another entire
like the Qumar thing. I have a note about that later too. That the Qumar thing feels like a weird hang up for CJ to have.
Yes,
as a character, but she's literally the only woman on the senior staff of the White House, so they kind of have to give it to her.
Yeah. Then Toby tells CJ about Qumar very, very vaguely. Just kind of throws it under, and basically is like the most misogynist you ever see Toby ever. Like he's telling her, he's telling her in front of her staff, first of all, like her own staff. He's telling her about like, oh, by the way, like we're selling like all these weapons to like this country, and she's just kind of like, and she's like, what? Like, can you give me some more detail about that? And he's like, don't start.
Don't start. All right. Don't get in. Oh my God. Here you go with the emotions.
With the emotions where she's like, no, it's just jarring. And I'm like asking for detail. I'm supposed to address the country about this. Like, like how are you going to throw this at someone and not expect like any detail at all? But it's also because like Toby is covering for his ass not being able to like handle emotions himself.
Yeah.
And honestly, so is Bartlet. Bartlet's not able to handle this either emotionally.
No.
Either. Sam's running around worrying about bogus lawsuit. Then Toby lists off for him a list of phony baloney lawsuits, like the one you mentioned at the start of this episode. Of having
the guy from Xanadu in his line, and he wants the Bartlet administration to come and take care of that guy.
Is Xanadu's not the Scientologist demon guy, right? That's like something that's Dark Lord Xenu or something, right?
Yeah,
some shit like that. Anyway,
Xanadu was a 1980 film.
Oh, okay. Is that the? Oh no.
I've never seen it. According to Wikipedia, it's a 1980s American musical fantasy written by Richard Christendanis, directed by Robert Greenwald.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do with that.
Yeah. But anyway, Sam wants to have the national seatbelt law to like cover the president's ass over this non-lawsuit that he has. And then Charlie and the president basically talk about the Celtics and classical history. President keeps yelling at Charlie. He's about the Visigoths. Just,
Yeah. Because the president is too rich too highly privileged to actually have ever had a real education or be able to teach. So when Charlie just asks a simple homework question, he starts lecturing about the Visigoths and the meaning of the word ecology.
And then Charlie quizzes him on when was the EPA?
Yeah, Charlie wants to know. When was the Clean Water Act
passed? Which I guessed in my head right then. I'm happy to say I was right about it. And
right, it's one of those things that Nixon did. That if you asked anyone who created the EPA, they would guess some Democrat, but it was Nixon, and it's the kind of thing that could never be created today.
Yeah. It's it's particularly amazing. That's why I want to like have people like know it's like it doesn't matter who's in office. You can, if you play your cards right, you can get them to get shit done.
Yeah.
Like fucking don't even give a shit. Don't even give a fuck. Happy day. But then Leo comes in and tells the president CJ that there is a single case already found of mad cow disease in the United States. And then we start going into like, I kind of wanted to ignore this plot, the side plot here, because I was just like, oh, yes, the rise on beef, which I mean, looking back, experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, no, it's crazy. They're like, this will destroy the beef industry. And it's like, if mad cow were happening today, there would literally be like political rallies where everyone just like ate tainted beef and like said "fuck you" to the experts. Like,
yeah, no, this is kind of a frustrating episode to like look at too, because like I also saw like governmental mistakes where it was like, oh no, like just like lie and hide the information about it too. And it's like, yeah, like I don't think do that. I think listen to CJ about just like, hey, get ahead of it and like try to like, you know, try and inform and like be the best. There's gonna be naysayers anyway, but if you get caught withholding information,
yeah,
that is like that starts getting like people who are rational to be skeptical of you, and that's not good.
And
So
CJ has an excellent point of like, I don't know how many more times we can get away with just blatantly lying to the American people.
That's bro, like, and that's the thing is like, COVID-19 happened like after how many fake war, like how many wars that were we lied to get into it? Like how many times have we just like completely has our corporate media just like completely just followed along with our government media, not been like how journalists were during the McCarthy years and actually were a pressing point against our government, but you know, are now just kind of beacons and, you know, stenographers for what our intelligence agencies and what our government wants us to know, essentially.
Yeah.
It's depending on the party that you're in too.
Yeah. All right.
But anyway, yes. CJ takes the position of like, we need to like soften the blow and inform the citizenry. And Leo starts arguing for, no, we need to like hide the information and protect the beef prices, which the president then sides with them right away. And then like CJ is pissed. Like, you know, president goes with that. CJ is pissed when she's leaving the office. She's like, you know, CNN's going to pick up on this and it's going to leak. like you're not going to get away with this shit very long. And yeah, and then she keeps bringing up the Qumar too about this imaginary country, which isn't as powerful because it's not a fucking real place. Like it's not a real fucking place. So it's like you can bake whatever fucking stats you want about these countries, and it's like, I mean, this isn't Charlie Chaplin and the Great Dictator here. You're not making these like thought out fake little countries to have this analogy for something. You're just like throwing this in because
no, it's true. And what was that that movie, the it's doing some spot Googling here.
Which movie, you motherfucker?
Oh, The Interview.
Oh, yeah.
That movie about North Korea where like the studios really wanted them to make it a fake country, but they're like, nope, it's actually just way funnier if it's about Kim
Jong-un. Yeah, they're pussies too, so that's what it is. Like, they did the same thing with the Red Dawn remake. Because they were going to make it about if China invaded. But it's easier to do it to North Korea.
Well, I mean, the interview was just about like what a ridiculous character Kim Jong-un is. Like that was the comedy
character. They made a cartoon character, and that's what it is. And it's like,
sure, Kelly, we don't have to get into just what a ridiculous family that is, but we can move on for now.
Yeah, bet. All right, Josh goes to the women. I basically wrote like it's just like a women's rights NGO. That's what it seems like the whole setup is. There's like, and then Josh is like made very uncomfortable by all the feminist art. Would do very unwell with Maud Lebowski if he was around her. And she's got this woman's name is Abby something. I don't know her last name, but
Amy Gardner.
Abby Gardner. Amy. Okay, it's Amy Gardner.
Abby is the president's wife. Amy First Lady, is her friend in women's politics.
Okay, so Amy Gardner has got a State Department map of global sex trafficking. Has got all of these facts and statistics ready to go. Josh has got nothing to rebuttal with about other than just like, well, these Italians and shit, like, you know, like it's a lot easier to like get them to sign this UN resolution if it's just like, you know, there's not that much to ask about it. And then she's like, well, if it's toothless, then like, what good is it? Which is like, that's kind of like been a whole point about politics for a long time in our country. Is
and like I get what Amy is saying too, but also, I mean, especially over the past, you know, maybe 5-6 years, the whole anti-sex trafficking thing really has been co-opted by like far right radicals who just want to like ban all pornography and it's like you know what I mean? Like,
well, but here's the thing, Tim, is that like why we let them co-opt it? Like, well, it's because it's an issue we're like kind of ignoring, and it's been like largely ignored by the elites who, because we don't really control like what our narrative, or we've been kind of giving it to these fools, like these like neoliberal fools, because they're like our best option to have any representation, and they
right.
keep
Well, I'm
making these
saying like in the
militaristic
real world,
steals.
I'm saying in the real world, the people doing the work that Amy is doing are not neoliberals. They're like far right, like uber Christian anti-porn.
Oh, I disagree. I disagree. I think that's like the media narrative nowadays. But like, there have been people like left like leftist feminists who've been doing this shit for years. Like they're out there. It's just that it's like the system we have doesn't like reward these people. They reward like, now we have like a right-wing populist base that's crazy, and they're like tapping into like the desperation of America, and they're like they're harnessing that energy about people who have like, hey, my daughter's gone, and like I make under $30,000 a year. Nobody fucking cares. Like I'm losing my mind. Like it's like they're taking advantage of that. And it's because like it's kind of like the rest of like the democratic failures. It's like you just keep abandoning people who have nowhere to go. You just keep doing that, and it's just like, and you keep like throwing that like, okay, it's your problem, but like we're so compassionate for you. We're so compassionate for you. But it's like, but we're going to give you hope. We're going to give you hope. Just vote for us again, and we'll fight the big bad wolf. Because if you vote for these people, you're like also like the big bad wolf, and you're going to be just as deplorable. But honestly, like once you're forgotten about, and you're desperate, it's a lot easier to go down that type of path.
I mean, sure, but like if you look at like the leadership of the anti of like a lot of these anti-sex trafficking groups, and the people who like want like super like give your driver's license to the government before you can use Pornhub laws that say that they're anti-sex trafficking are really like far right groups who have been campaigning against porn since the 90s.
Yeah, I think they might be using that as like a cover. Like I
definitely
think
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying is that this entire movement has been co-opted as a cover for these far right groups who just want to like ban pornography.
I like I say, Tim, I don't think it's been co-opted. I think there's just a lot more media attention on there because they have a lot. They're a part of an apparatus that has a lot more media coverage.
Isn't that what co-opting means?
Like no. Co-opting is to like. Co-opting, I feel like, is to like change the meaning, which they haven't changed the meaning of it. They haven't changed like.
They have though, right? Because like when you say go after sex trafficking, like the main sex trafficking hub in like this digital age is Facebook, and now it's like TikTok. Like that's where these traffickers like fucking work to like prey on children. But they're not actually like going after those places. They're going after like Pornhub, and they want you to give your driver's license to the government when you're watching porn.
Right, but like that, but Tim, that's what I'm saying is like you're paying attention to more of these like media. You're paying attention to these like groups because they're popping up more lately, and there's a lot more media attention around them. There's a lot more of an apparatus around them, and I'm letting you know that it's like, well, you're not seeing the leftist ones that like are still just trying to do the whole like humanitarian perspective. You're not seeing a whole lot of that coverage because it's not a hip issue right now.
I mean, I think it is a hip issue, but like I think the issue has been co-opted. Like I think maybe we're just getting hung up on the definition of co-opted here.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Because I'm still pretty sure that these like, because I've listened to interviews with like with women like who are kind of like this character is, who is just like, yeah, seems just like kind of like a further left feminist who just like wants to like use advantage, but she also works for an NGO, and I got thoughts about that. But moving on, she basically threatens Josh that like if we don't get like Force taken out of there, then we can like we can just hold up your nominations. We can do what we can to kind of fuck with your board a little bit. We can throw some straw in the gears or whatever.
Yeah.
And and that she plays politics also. Would love a little bit of that.
Yeah, I was just saying also
kind of like how the Republicans did with Kevin McCarthy with just 8 people. Which I mean, like,
Yeah.
it is like, I mean, seriously, dude, if these progressives fucking did this shit today, like, if they would have done that in 2020 with Nancy Pelosi, like, man, would I have more faith in them?
Yeah.
But they're not. Like, they're not. Like, Matt Gaetz has got more courage to do that. Matt fucking Gaetz. They should be ashamed of themselves. Like,
they should be ashamed of themselves. Our government is horrible. Anyway.
Also, fuck Matt Gaetz, too.
I fuck Matt Gaetz.
Right.
Speaking of sex trafficking, fuck Matt Gaetz. But it is nice just to have Mary Louise Parker on here. She's a great actress. She brings an immediate presence to the show. And she's actually got good chemistry with Josh, which is something that, like, whenever they tried to do these, like, sexual tension dynamics with Rob Lowe, it just never worked.
No. Well, because Rob Lowe's character is he's too, like, intellectually, like, here's my dick. Like, he's too... Yeah, he's too much, but it's like they want to rely on that old show trope of, like, but he looks pretty. So, like, doesn't he seem like the type of guy you want to fuck? When it's like Josh seems like that. See, like, also speaking of, like, weird sex shit, is like that kind of Woody. What's the name of that director?
Woody Allen.
Allen. That type of Woody Allen style of, like,
crumpled up intellectual energy.
Yeah. Even though I hate Woody Allen, like I've always, and even before his shit, I've always hated that motherfucker because his movies fucking sucked. I do not understand. Okay, I guess I'm, like, not a snob, but it's just like I don't fucking get it. So someone fucking, like, help me out with this. Internet, like, fucking help me understand, like, what the fuck is up with these movies, because, like, I look at them and I'm like, these are shit. These are fucking shit. I hate this. I hate his character. I hate all these things, but I understand it's a whole trope, and it must have been like a whole awakening for the time, kind of like Andrew Dice Clay in comedy in the 80s. Like, it's just like he was huge then, but he sucks by today's standards, and it's like I don't get him, but I guess for the time this is great. Anyway, moving on, my little diatribe about that. But anyway,
workingwingpod@gmail.com to share your thoughts on Woody Allen with Killian.
Yes, please share. But Toby meets up with I guess it's some, like, strategists that are trying to talk to him about, like, what he's going to do with the veterans group. And
yeah, these are the staff of the Smithsonian.
Okay, so the staff of the museum there, and they said that the group is concerned about the racist propaganda posters. That you said that's what their concern is. But I guess it was for a different group because it didn't make sense to me. And
no, they're the group putting on this exhibition about World War II, and when they cover Japan, they cover it in a very, like, look at like the incredibly racist propaganda America was putting out about Japanese people during World War II.
Yeah. I mean, so they're talking about the veterans group is boycotting because of that, because I didn't think that made sense.
Yeah. No, the veterans group was a bunch of World War II veterans who were like, no, we weren't racist. We were just fighting the war and protecting freedom. Like, they saw the exhibit as America bashing.
Oh,
as anti-American.
Okay, because it had the racist posters up there.
Because they were highlighting how racist the dialogue around Japan was at the time. And they were like, no, we were just good old boys fighting the good fight.
Okay. That now makes a bit more sense, because I was thinking, like, are they talking about a different group or something? Anyway, yeah, but there's a vengeance exhibit that is that is definitely a kid's lunchbox. Yeah, then Leo darkly informs Toby about the mad cow disease news, about, like, it's coming here, we're gonna lose the beef prices. Then Sam comes in and tells Leo the lawsuit, shaking his hands and freaking out again. And he wants a seatbelt law. And Toby was like, Toby was like, well, do you have a way to, like, swing New Hampshire and Michigan? Because Michigan's where we make.
Yeah, I didn't make like every car has come with fucking seats. Not the fucking 60s anymore. Every car comes with seatbelts. They wouldn't have to, like, change their manufacturing if we passed the national seatbelt law.
Also, Toby, we gave away all those Michigan, like, manufacturing jobs, like 10 years ago. Like, quite another thing too. You should see Detroit today. Yikes. Josh is dismissive. Josh talks to Donna about his meeting with Amy, and he's dismissive of her. He's like, I can just make her do what I want. And Donna gives some insight that you can maybe spin this as that, like, well, we want to legalize and help and condone prostitution. We don't want to condone prostitution. We don't want to
right. We don't want to. But the thing is that I don't know. Prostitution is literally the oldest. It's one of those things that is always going to fucking exist.
Yeah.
In a society is prostitution. And so I do agree with the point of view of if it's always going to exist, then the smart thing to do is to fucking legalize it and regulate it.
Yeah, but then it's also what's the morality of regulating something that might be viewed by many people to be very immoral and should stay underground, that type of thing. It gets to
people think that there are people who think that drinking and gambling are immoral, but in a lot of places,
are they good for society? Everywhere. Are they good? Are they helping?
Right, but
society?
When we tried to ban drinking, it was a fucking national disaster for an entire decade.
Right.
That just gave rise to huge organized crime syndicates that lasted for decades.
Right, but it's also similar with things like heroin. Or
I do think heroin should be legalized and regulated.
See, I disagree with that. I think that is that's a different issue too. I don't think I think that I don't think that something that harmful to people should just be allowed like that. I agree it's going to create an underground industry, but it's the way that can be taken advantage of is just so detrimental to human beings.
I think whenever it's been tried, the actual harm done by heroin is reduced in a regulated setting.
And I think that's potentially okay, but you have to get to a point of not having it be acceptable in public. You start making rules around these things, and there's regulations around where you can drink and where you can gamble and how prostitution is around. And it's there's definitely that type of factor to it, but it's you get to well, who do you want legislating this type of thing? And it's these. I also don't trust how the government was at this time or even today to make regulations around prostitution. I wouldn't trust that either. I would rather trust people who have been illegally in the industry, which is another problem of
right. When you talk about exploitation and prostitution, it's the fucking people who are running it now who do have free reign to abuse the people in the industry, because there's no law. Being a prostitute is in itself illegal. It's not more illegal to abuse a prostitute that you're running as a pimp or whatever, because it's all illegal.
Yeah.
If you regulate it, if you make the prostitution itself legal, then you can criminalize the abuse of prostitutes.
But you'd also be legalizing and criminalizing what I'm just getting at, Tim, is that you'd have to bring people in who are already doing illegal shit and stuff that might not be pretty moral, in on making laws with people who don't even agree with it. That I'm just getting at, it's hairy.
It's hairy. It's a
hairy situation.
It's a tricky situation.
It's not quite as easy as that. You're not gonna. You have to really refine the regulation. I really don't think America's in that spot right now.
Anyway,
CJ then asks, CJ asks about if Amy can spin it. Toby comes in and talks with CJ, Toby, and Josh about the mad cow disease, yada, yada, yada. CJ suggests that Qumar should be, that the billions of dollars they're getting from Qumar should be used in, for something, uses funding for something, for fighting mad cow disease. Another quick quip about that. The president is with, he's with, but
he's all right. This meeting, I wanted to highlight this meeting because this meeting is fucking ridiculous the way we see it play out.
Yeah.
Where it's someone brings up, oh, this guy's mad about unfunded mandates. And the president is just like, hey, how much would it cost for us to eliminate all the unfunded mandates? And he's
right,
like,
just
billions of
just throw it
dollars.
away. And like this
It's
is a
like,
very Trumpian moment, Trumpian presidential moment from Bartlett right here.
yeah, it's
Something
like this meeting
Trump
could
would
have been
totally
an email.
do.
Like, why are you having this meeting at all?
Right. Right. Like, why? Yeah, just ignores them, talks to Leo, says how much can we pay to like get rid of all this? I hate it. Suggests just killing and quarantine the sick cows, worried about beef industry. President tells Charlie about some bullshit ecology speech he wants to bring up, and then he says 1972. I was like happy I was right about that. But then at least about the year the EPA was created, 1972.
Oh right, no, but before that there's a moment where wait, have we gotten to the veterans meeting?
Not quite yet. Sam meets with the dad. Oh yeah, Sam meets with the dad from Modern Family and some other lawyer who's like part of this lawsuit, this bullshit lawsuit, and then like of course like Sam destroys it in like a second. And, we're just like, well, hey, how is he liable for this? Doesn't make any sense. Josh says the thing to Donna. Oh yeah, Josh says something to Donna that would fire him. I think he asked her, Donna, are you
yeah, no, it's like, no, he basically does this whole like hypothetical conversation about where she is pretending to be a prostitute.
I think this would be a much more appropriate conversation to have with Sam. Like, I think
Sam, you're a prostitute, all right? He's like, you know about this, right?
Like, right?
Sam, you're a prostitute. You're a prostitute. Well, Sam has connections in that industry too.
Right. He's got a friend who no longer wants to see him. He's got a restraining order against him now. Yeah. Then Donna basically has the point of he suggests legalizing prostitution. Then Donna also asks the question of like, well, even if it was legal, do you think like every woman would advertise it, like even if they were on the side or anything like that? Good points, yada yada. Like have the information out there in front of people. It like I said, it brings some complexity to an issue that's
it does.
Yeah,
it does. But then you also look at like the explosion of like OnlyFans and how that has become a like source of revenue for hundreds, if not thousands, of women in this country.
But it's different than prostitution.
Yeah.
Like I would still say it's different because like you're not like no one's going into your house. You're not having to pay like you're having to pay a different boss. Like, but it's a different system. It's a different system transaction, but it has similarities. And I can
yeah, it's on a spectrum, right?
Yes, right. Definitely. Toby meets here we go. Toby meets with the veterans. They're pretty much hung up on we don't want the image of a vengeful America. We use those bombs because we had to. We used the second one.
Right. It's the whole, they used the second one because they weren't surrendering fast enough. But yeah, they raised.
We really wanted to show Stalin how big our dick was. Okay,
yeah.
guys, like we had a really big dick at the time. We almost threw one at North Korea. We almost threw one there. We're so excited about him, but but fortunately that did not happen. But then like Toby is in there, obviously not being a military guy, not like knowing about anything. And then CJ like pops in there all of a sudden, saying
and starts bringing up this point about the Nazis, and it's a very bad look.
Well, I was gonna start it off with she comes in and she actually like impresses them with like her military knowledge. Like, she like shakes their hand and like knows what divisions they were in and knows what battles they were in. And it's like, of course,
I did her homework.
Right. And well, that's the thing. If you want to impress a bunch of veterans, like if you know what battalion they're from and you know what battles they're from, like they're already gonna they're gonna be like, I love you. Like that's if you ever had beers with a bunch of like old veterans, this is like kind of like what it is. If it's like if you're a military nerd, they will fucking like be all over you about shit. And that's what CJ does here beautifully. But she uses the example of the Nazis of like the Battle of the Bulge, like because they fought the Battle of the Bulge, which was a turning point in the West, and she basically compared it to like, well, what if Nazi Germany had like won the Bulge, had been around still, and we had like you know, like then all of a sudden we were sending.
We were
money.
renting a base from them and giving them like tanks and shit. How would you feel about that?
Right.
And it's a clumsy analogy, and it's a bad look for CJ.
Right, for throwing it. Well, I mean, trying to relate it to Qumar. But yeah, she was trying to barge in with it, but she was doing so good at first. She was coming in on a roll with it, and then CJ asked her to leave because, of course, like she does what you're never supposed to do with like old veterans: argue with them about like what would have happened. Which she started doing it right away, being like, "Oh yeah, what if Nazi Germany was still around today?" And they were like, "Well, we wouldn't let that happen." It's like
we wouldn't let that happen.
Stop arguing with the veteran right there. Like that's where you concede the point and you move on. You move on. You approach flank a different way. That's what you do. You flank a different way because,
or just stop trying to score points with these veterans and go talk to the president or something, or Nancy, which you.
I liked her talking to the veterans. I liked this scene a bit of them like going through the hypotheticals. That was fun for me. But anyway, moving on from it. But Toby takes her out. Oh yeah. Takes her out and tells her that like that was inappropriate. I get what the meeting was really about. Sam comes to the president over New Hampshire not having mandatory seatbelt laws. The whole staff meets about mad cow disease, and they're checking for public panic. CJ's been touts what she's been saying the whole time is like, give them the soft approach. You can't afford to have the government like lie to them again and get caught.
Right. And they do settle on a balanced approach of like, we're going to tell them, but it's going to be like a mid-level official from it's going to be like I think they ends up being like
the worst of both director. Worlds. That's awesome. Like, that's awesome. Like, just be like,
I get totally what they're saying. Like, they don't want to start a mass panic. And they also don't want to be accused of hiding the information. So I think the whole low-level briefing, and no one will notice, and it's fine.
I think the whole like mass panic thing is it's like, well, like you're gonna see a dip and shit anyway. Just fuck the market. Like it's gonna happen. You guys artificially like do shit for the market anyway. So like, what the fuck you acting like? It's like this dip in the market you guys aren't gonna make up for. Like, give me a fucking break here. It's like we have whole military bases, like entire military underground bases where they have like all sorts of food, like nuts and cheese and all this shit to keep these prices of these
there is a strategic cheese reserve in this country.
Of all sorts of shit. Like it's not just cheese. It's like beans and nuts and like all whatever stuff that can be like preserved underneath there that we make a ton of that we want to subsidize. We do that for. That's how economies work nowadays. It's just how it goes. So anyway, yes, we will make up for it. So they just just more of the dialogue about that. Inform. Yep.
This is where Toby tells the president he's trying to get a wheelchair for one of the veterans.
Oh, yep.
Bartlet just goes off on a speech about the origin of the word red tape. And sends Toby off without any kind of answer.
Tells him to apologize to CJ because she's mad at him.
Yeah.
Which she definitely has a right to be. And then, of course, Leo kind of like corrects him as soon as he dismisses Toby. And he's like, you just want to get a vet a wheelchair.
No, Charlie actually.
Oh, Charlie did. Sorry, my bad. Sorry, Charlie.
Man, he was just trying to get a wheelchair. He didn't need to hear about the origin of red tape. And then he makes a snide comment about, Maybe you can get a wheelchair from German philosopher Hegel.
Hegel or Hegel?
Yeah, because Hegel. Because Bartlet had told him that he needed to read Hegel's book about ecology.
Mm.
And that's where you get the you know nothing about the Visigoths. I know everything.
Yeah. Josh then follows the army. I'm sorry. Josh follows
the army.
He follows the army. Josh follows Amy home, like that great character that like Sorkin. Like I wonder how many women like Aaron Sorkin's followed home. How many times has he like followed his wife home?
Yeah, I mean Sorkin is definitely Or Sorkin is definitely like 90s romantic comedy build.
Where it's like a
with this
Korean
whole approach.
drama where it's like the man follows her home and stalks her, and it's like the woman finds that romantic.
I mean, I don't think Sorkin was watching Korean dramas, but this is a very like 90s.
I'm just commenting. This is a trope that I see in these dramas that my woman watches, and it is like it is consistent. Oh my god. Anyway,
Amy reveals her. Well, Amy makes a point that I think is just a really bad point, where it's like no little girl wants to be a prostitute when she grows up, and that's why prostitution is bad. And it's like, Amy, most fucking jobs that people do, they don't want to do when they didn't want to do when they were kids. Like I don't know about you, Killian. Did you ever say to yourself when you were a kid, I want to work in a pasteurization factory when I grow up?
Well, no,
like, I certainly never said I want to like I want to be a grunt for Jeff Bezos when I grow up.
But Tim, I think she even answers that point for you, is that she says that, but coercion isn't really like coercion is still there by economics, and that's like kind of like what this all is. Because what
right,
we really
but then being a fucking Amazon worker should be illegal, or being like any kind of like factory grunt. So like all work that isn't like done by coastal elites is basically like immoral. Which I kind of agree with, but like that's not.
Well, but here's the thing, Tim. Like, how does like prostitution like help society?
Because prostitution is a basic facet of society and always has been.
Is it?
Yes.
The basic facet. I mean, I understand there's like we have these
prostitution has always existed in every society.
Right, but would you say if you took it away, would it crumble the whole society?
I mean, I think a lot of stuff, if you took away, wouldn't crumble.
No, but if you just prostitution, if that's just taken away, like you have a society with no prostitute, could you have a society without it? That's like that's not like where it's.
I honestly don't know, Killian. I think that's a bigger question than you're making it seem like.
Well, I mean, I think this gets to the larger question of like when we actually have like a world where we don't have to do any of these jobs to like build up to anything, and we can like work whatever we want. And it's like, I get it. I get how it's like doing any of these things are just like a financial necessity where you're using whatever assets or whatever skills or abilities that you have and you're selling your labor. This is how it is. This is how it is under capitalism. I understand that like legalizing prostitution like may fix a few problems in capitalism, but it's like it's hairy.
I think any society that that had no like actual prostitution would have some type of substitute, whether that's like it's like the holodecks from Star Trek, or like life like sex robots or something like that.
Like exchanging money for a service that like exchanging money for like this specific type of service.
Yeah.
And
there'd be some form of that, or
I think, Tim, it could be argued that like some of these forms of industry, like some of these like practices, like for example, usury, where it's like lending money for a profit with interest.
Yeah.
Like doing that, like there is like kind of an immoral sense of that, because that really like.
Oh yeah, the Bible has a lot to say about the immorality of usury.
Right. And I think that's because like in these ancient societies that they've seen this problem of when there's like people who do this, it creates a different class of society, right, and they start affecting a society a certain way. Right. And there's like and there's like
just like the Bible says that prostitution is bad, it says usury is bad. It said those things because those things were a factor in society, 4,000 years ago.
Yes, Tim. But it's like I think that there's like objections to that, because like there are certain moral implications and certain ways that like it affected those societies, and that's like partially affected because of the technologies that they had and the morals and what people were thinking and the philosophies at the time were. And I think that times are different now, and I think that there's a lot of changes in between that. But I still think these things they're complicated. They're hairy.
It's very hairy.
They're very hairy. Like like a nice good bush. A landing strip. A full bush. It's not a landing strip. It's a full bush. No Amazons with this prostitution issue. Anyway, after that bad transition, Yes, Amy and Amy and Josh start flirting again. And she basically starts asking, like, why'd you follow me to my office, though? Like, why didn't you call, like, to ask me to argue with me over the phone? And it's because you want to fuck me? Like, it's basically in so many words of, like, so you want to fuck me, right? Like, you're not fucking your secretary? You're not fucking Joey Lucas? I know about her. Like, you're not fucking them? Like,
yeah.
I'm obviously, like,
then,
betting my lips and shit and being a
and then she throws a football. She throws a snowball at him.
Okay, well, no, it's a water balloon. It's a water balloon because
that's right.
Yeah, she tells him she said, like, I know what type of guy you are, and he does the whole little flirty, like, what type of guy you think? Like, no way. What type of guy you think I am? Like tell me. Come on. And she tells him, you're the type of guy who wants to get hit in the head. And he takes a hit and leaves.
And then she hits him in the head.
Yeah. I thought she threw it at him and she missed him. That's what I thought happened. And he's like, you almost hit my head. And she's like, yeah, you fucking idiot. Like,
ask me out, you dipshit.
Ask me out so I can, like, step on your dick with my heels, dude. Like, hey, it's like, hey, guess what? Like, I got this, like, nice strap-on thing. I'm, like, ready. I've been ready for you. Like, you're that guy. You're that type of guy. Like, you head to the head. And by head, I mean your asshole.
Anyway.
Then we move on to a late, yeah.
Now we have, the last big scene, which is between CJ and Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
And great acting by Allison Janney in here. I mean, yeah, this is another hairy issue that I struggle to actually, like, articulate my thoughts on, but it was like post 9/11. It was in the conversation. Yeah.
Well,
Nancy sums it up with, it's a big world. It's a big, scary world. Everyone has guns, and I'm just doing my best.
Yeah, but CJ kept coming back with, but they're beating women, which unfortunately kind of looked like a Good Doctor moment. Like, it just looked like she just kept repeating the same thing, and Nancy, like, was, like, being written as the more rational one who knows what kind of world that they're in. But it's also, like, what CJ should have been really saying, and, like, what none of these writers really, like, actually were thinking about at the time, is that all of these measures don't actually make us more safe. Having that military base and actually giving this, like, unstable country more weapons doesn't make the world safer. Like making peace treaties, like, actually makes the world safer. But putting your military bases there and, like, giving this mass murderer this and giving that mass guy that and saying, well, their neighbor there, like, they're fucking evil and, like, we're gonna arm them, like, that, doing that makes the world a lot more unstable, like, significantly more than just, like, staying the fuck out of it and, like, maybe keeping all these, like, resources that, like, we've had for ourselves and maybe saving it for, like, maybe the bigger conflict if it ever comes down to that. Maybe even de-escalating some nuclear stuff. I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah, they had an episode about that last season, about the whole nuclear thing.
Yeah. And Toby went through his thing. But then anyway, Nancy walks off feeling like she won the argument and knowing that, oh yeah, you're not going to say anything about it. And then CJ goes off, barely wiping the tears out of her eyes. Great acting, by the way. Great fucking acting.
Allison Janney is she's a stud.
Yeah, Allison Janney just, like, absolutely kills it with this, like, complete, like, no transition of, like, this emotional issue of, like, yelling at her about, like, what the real core of this is. And then giving the press conference of, we have a birthday right now. I'm not gonna say who it is because I don't want to embarrass her, but we have cake. And gives the whole press conference about all these issues and bullshits the country flawlessly, while Toby gives, like, a little kind of, like,
I'm sorry, I'm sorry gesture.
Yeah, but barely even making eye contact, which also, like, great acting, Richard Schiff, like, always.
Yeah,
like, there's, like, subtleties with, like, less is more. Like, that's just how it is for some of these actors, but after CJ did it. But yeah, now moving on to the West Wing episode 10 of season 3, Bartlet.
Yeah. We'll try to, I think there's less, honestly, to talk about. I like this episode. I think it's well written and well acted. There's just not a lot. We'll have less tangents about like hairy political issues, I think, in this episode. We start with Leo in a conference room at the Capitol. He's being briefed by Clark Gregg, Agent Coulson himself. I think his name is Mike Casper in the show, but I always call him
Mike Casper. Yep, Mike Casper.
And yeah, there's a situation in Tennessee with some bombings. Leo's trying to stay on top of it. And then like there's this. All right, there is like he wishes Leo good luck. The FBI, of course, just loves drug-addled government officials and really wishes them the best. There's like he has a call with the president. They're very like oddly dismissive about this like congressional hearing, which like they were freaking out about just like 5 episodes ago.
Yeah, they were.
This was a big deal like 5 episodes ago, but now they're just like, this is such a bullshit waste of time. Why are we doing this?
Right. No, Leo treats this like the whole time like he's like, I've been here before, which is just like a whole like, oh, you're not like shaking on the inside.
Right. No, like at the end of last season and in the early parts of this season, this was treated as like the great challenge of the Bartlet administration. And now it's an annoyance at best.
Which makes me kind of think about like how much this might be an after 9/11 episode, because beforehand they were kind of treating like this West Wing staff like, oh, we're kind of too incompetent. We can't get it.
I think you can tell. Yeah, I think you can tell at this point that they've pivoted what the season is going to be about.
Because now they're too strong. They're just like, oh, well, you're with the big boys now, and we know what we're talking. We're the elite. Not just like we're normal people. Now they're like,
there probably is something to say too about like how the country came to view executive power in the early days after 9/11.
Yeah,
and it's like the government's going to give us the Patriot Act, and they're going to go get Bin Laden, and we trust we have the right guys in charge. But anyway,
wasn't there a poll once given about like President Bartlet about like would you vote for Martin Sheen if he was running for president, and most people like said yes.
Oh yeah, and Martin Sheen was approached during the run of this show by both parties to run for Congress at various points, and he turned them all down.
Dude, he was like, "What the fuck? I'm an actor."
Exactly.
And they're like, "So was Reagan."
So was Reagan. There was like they have a weird phone call with the president where they're like talking very inappropriately about Leo's lawyer.
Yeah. The whole plot line with her is weird, but we'll get into that.
We all stand together for a rich old man. Oh yeah, Leo's like, there's 1,000. The president is like, there's 1,000 people here standing with you.
Yeah.
The rich old men have the right to be drunk at work, and we here at the Bartlet administration stand for that. I do like the line, "Ain't nothing but a family thing," and we'll come back to that. Like the way the committee opens up, and like the way the guy like represents what the hearing is about seems evidently reasonable. Like there was a massive cover up of this thing or this big secret that no one knew. We're trying to understand how nobody knew.
Yeah.
But the smug fucking jackass is back. Guy from 7 Days, Donna's boyfriend.
Yeah.
Then we have this is a flashback episode too. So we go to Bartlet's New Hampshire office. He's being briefed on a new marketing campaign.
New Hampshire.
It's what's new.
It's what's new.
Which like I listen to a lot of podcasts, and that has been a big thing over the past few years. Is like various states having like marketing campaigns that they like run ads for on podcasts, like Discover Michigan, or like
here in Massachusetts is the spirit of America.
Live your Wisconsin life. Which like good luck trying to sell Wisconsin right now when you can smoke weed legally in every state surrounding us. But that's another issue for
hey, dude, come here for like the smoke fires that are over camp. Like,
and then like we see Leo like lurking in the background, and we see him pull an old cocktail napkin out of his pants pocket, write something down.
So I've been in a daze lately.
Everywhere I go, I just find myself writing this one thing down over and over again. Which actually reminds. Sorry, this is a tangent.
Yeah, go.
There's
Yeah,
like an episode of there's an episode of the show Angel where one of the characters on that show is an evil lawyer, and he gets his hand cut off by Angel, and they replace it with like a new hand at a certain point. He works for this evil law firm, and this evil hand, like he'll be in a meeting or something, and he'll just start writing like kill, 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 because he has like an evil possessed hand.
Right.
And whenever I saw that episode, I always think of this episode too, of like Leo just compulsively scripting. Instead of kill, 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 it's Bartlet for America.
See, I'm imagining him in like, like in Watchmen, but as like Rorschach, and he's like walking around, but instead of like, like breaking into houses and fighting crime and eating beans, he's still eating beans probably, but he's just getting really hammered at bars and just living off canned beans and stuff. Like that's what I'm imagining with like, it's like, I've just been in the haze and every time I just come in and write this down, and he scribbles and he puts the napkin.
Like, Leo, you are drunk again, my friend. But yes, he licks the napkin, sticks it on the easel, and it says Bartlet for America.
Yeah.
Back to the we see Agent Coulson talking to Donna, and they're like walking along, and out of nowhere Coulson is just like, hey, if this weren't a national emergency, I'd totally be hitting you right now. It's such a weird fucking line. And then he's briefing the president. They haven't found the person blowing up these churches, but they're working on it. And then meanwhile, the committee is talking about Edith Wilson.
Yeah.
And Bartlet comments that they're about to spank Abby using the Edith Wilson comparison.
Fuck you, Wilson family, by the way.
Oh, yeah, then we see another flashback, which
isn't where they're playing basketball?
They're playing basketball. It's
the office. Oh, like that's what every elite is doing and having fun. Because and this makes me think back to like when I went and canvassed for Bernie Sanders in Iowa. And it's like, like this is like not how the staff like office looks at all. It's not like all people like playing around, being like goofing off and stuff like that. Just being like, whoa, we're just having so much fun here. I mean, such like an AstroTurf type of scene. Because what I remember seeing is like a lot of like kind of like any like big long theater activity but it's like meeting a bunch of strangers or like any if you've been to like a high school like conference at all, like where it's like whether it's like cheerleading or dance or like some conference where you're meeting a bunch of different schools and everyone's fake nice to each other and like stressed out because they've been up all day and you're hurting all these cats of people.
Yeah, it is more like that.
Yeah, and of course, disorganization, boxes full of everywhere of merchandise and all this shit. And you have enough merchandise to like take home on your back, like they're just giving the shit away, but you're out there and you're getting shit done. But like it is not what these people are really going through. But there's a good impression of that.
But the staff is having a toss, and they're talking about they've made a good showing so far. They're doing well in the polls. And I think they had just gotten third place in Iowa. And they're trying to position Bartlet as a legitimate candidate. So they're going to have him release his taxes, put all his outstanding estate into a blind trust, and they're going to have him do a physical. They break a window. We see Bartlet talking to Abby about what he can get away with hiding at this point. She said a scan won't show anything. Here, they're like just to highlight what we've already talked about, the pivot of Sam into being a comedy character. She's like, Josh Lyman is special, and then she says Sam Seaborn is very funny, and it's like I think that really does highlight the
wait. No, I remember listening to this. I remember her saying that Sam Seaborn is like the first one she mentions, and that Josh is funny.
I think it's the other way around. I think it's Josh Lyman is special, and she says Sam Seaborn is very funny.
See, I remember it. I remember it being the other way around.
Because then the thing Bartlett says is, which one is Sam? She says the young one.
The
He
young one. He
says
said they're all young. They're all young. But I remember them saying that because Sam's the first comparison. Sam is like he's he's special, and then Josh was the last one, and like whatever that one was is he's funny.
Okay, well, I'm not going to go back and watch, so
It's okay. I just remember it differently. This could just be a same old leftist fight that's used to but I'm willing.
Well, I also know that they have completely written out Mandy from the history.
Oh yeah,
like
and
Mandy,
Ainsley.
like Mandy is like a communist leader who lost the power battle. She has just been like struck from the history. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how just like she will never ever be mentioned, referenced, or seen in the entire rest of the show.
Well, riddle me this: does Ainsley come back?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
She didn't get no fucking send off. They just were like,
no, neither of them did. Mandy was a full part of the staff in the last episode of season 1, and then just fucking gone, vanished into thin air at the start of season 2.
God. Well, anyway, yeah, and then like that night, Abby and Jet are talking, and she's like, "I got no problem with this at all." And Jet says, "Like, I'm not gonna lie about MS, man. I'm probably gonna."
Right, he's kind of justifying. He's like, "I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna make a couple speeches, get waxed on Super Tuesday, and then bow out."
Yeah.
I think our we see Josh talking to the president. President knows Josh is trying to do something to get Leo out of this questioning.
Yeah.
And they do some deep stares because deep stares do a lot of the heavy lifting in this episode. Our next flashback is at the nomination convention. We see Bartlett telling Hoynes that he has MS. And like Hoynes, I will have to say, is a loyal Democrat. Like he could have fucked this whole thing up. He could have blown it all up and like really positioned himself to win in 4 years. But he kept his mouth shut.
Yeah, or like position some like to like change anything, like kind of like a typical Democrat thing nowadays. Is that you can't go against the party right now,
right? It's like better this liar with MS than like a Republican, I suppose.
Right.
And Bartlett in this conversation is kind of like masterfully strong arming him. Like that position is like very carefully calculated. Of like, well, John, are you gonna like blow up the entire party because you're mad I lied about MS, or are you gonna be my good little vice president?
I mean, an echo of what they've talked about many times before.
Yeah, and he tries to put Hoynes on the spot of like giving him an answer right then. And Hoynes says, "I'll give you my answer when you give you my answer," and then we move on to Josh just looking sus as fuck, trying to make like secretive phone calls all over the hill. Honestly, probably creating more of a scandal than like Leo being drunk one time ever would. Being like, yeah, this guy from the White House was just like making calls all over the hill and not telling anybody like what he wanted.
Shady shit. Just doing
very shady shit. We have another scene with Clark Gregg. I think this is when they reveal that they caught the guy and
okay. That they caught the
guy.
They
caught the guy. Yeah, he was speeding.
He was bombing churches.
Yeah, the guy was bombing churches. He had like an expired license plate and he fled the cops because he was worried that they knew who he was and they caught him. Yeah. And he named names. Oh yeah, and it's like Josh makes a weird comment being like, that's your task force. You'd be out there if you weren't a woman or something. And Coulson is like, well, no, I'm on medical leave, and I strenuously protested that. But anyway, everyone's backslapping and shaking hands. Bartlett's going to send in the National Guard. And yeah, then we go back to the committee. I have a note here. I think this is just kind of about the entire episode, but it's just like all of this is about embarrassment. There's nothing legal on the stake. There's nothing financial at stake because Leo is already a very rich man. It's just like to this class of person, to these like rich old white dudes. And I think this is honestly Sorkin's point of view too, is that the worst thing ever that could happen to them is just being embarrassed of having people like know what they did and judging them for it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, maybe I'm stretching here, but it kind of goes to like what would eventually become the Me Too movement of like there are all of these people doing like bad shit, like, you know, under the cover of night and the cover of enormous privilege. And the only way you can get at them is to embarrass them, is to like put them on blast on Twitter and make them feel bad. Anyway, that was just a tangent I went on while watching this episode. in my notebook. I think the next big thing that happens is we get Leo and his lawyer talking about the day in general. And Leo gives like a delirious little monologue about how great Bartlet is, how he walks the stage like a pitcher walking the mound. He loves teams. And I think
teams.
This,
God, I love him. I remember that. Like,
God, I love him. Yeah, exactly.
God,
he loves teams. God, I love him. And then he goes into talking about how much he loves the president.
Yeah,
flows directly into, and I think not entirely uncoincidental way of talking about how much he loves booze. He's like, I love the feel of a glass, you know, perfectly chipped ice. I mean, this entire scene about Leo talking about his addiction is just fucking powerful.
Yeah,
like,
this is the most powerful part of the episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the best speeches about addiction I've ever heard. Of like, especially the line of like, because I think she's like, you had one drink, and he's like, I don't have one drink. I don't get people who can only have one drink. Who would want to stop feeling good? Who wouldn't want more of this thing that makes you feel like this? It really kind of sums up like what addiction is in a nutshell
for an addict. Yeah.
Also
him mentioning that it's like I don't get drunk in front of other people. I get drunk alone.
I get drunk alone. Yeah, you like raids the mini bar, drinks the entire thing.
Yeah.
And that congressman comes back. Meanwhile, the president has collapsed in front of his entire staff, which to me really kind of recontextualizes this entire thing.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, so the president just has a history of like collapsing, and you guys never thought there was anything going on there.
You guys just assumed this is just like a one-time thing.
Like, well, and then it happens again. So it's like by the time he's revealed, you know the president just has a history of like getting delirious and collapsing like a sack of potatoes.
So all these like that Richard Schiff like reveal scene and all that like did.
Yeah, it feels a little weird. It's like you kind of had to know there was something sus going on.
You guys aren't stupid. Like you guys aren't just. You guys aren't like as stupid as Justin Trudeau claims he is. All right, like you guys aren't that dumb.
So it makes the committee trying to ask questions seem more reasonable too.
Yes, but then Donna's ex-boyfriend
swoops in and saves the day.
And says that like this is why people hate us. People hate us because we're a bunch of moral crusaders. And all the Republicans are just like, well, yeah, that's like what we do. It's like, well, we're bloodthirsty. Is it your first day here? Like we're bloodthirsty. We're the GOP. We're the bloodthirsty.
Also, it's just like one of the top officials of the Democratic Party is a fucking like alcoholic and addict who's also been involved in like covering up all this shit. And yeah, we're gonna go after him. Like that's just like good politics, really.
Like, more importantly, he's not on our team. Like
he's not on our team, so we're gonna go after him.
Of course, we're gonna run after him. Like, what are you fucking stupid?
But apparently, the chairman of this committee is also fucking stupid because he agrees to recess the meeting until after the holidays, giving Leo a 2-week reprieve, and then like throughout this entire episode, Leo has been like hardcore hitting on his lawyer. And he asked her out to lunch and then dinner. And then after his speech, she gives in and agrees to go to dinner with him.
I was like, yeah, this isn't a bad idea at all to like go.
I mean, it seems like an ethics violation, right?
Yeah,
to like date your client.
yeah, like everything about it. And it's also, I was also wondering throughout this, I was like, what's Leo's like? And like, is it just where it's like, well, I can't like go and see a prostitute, which would be like cheaper than a lawyer. Like, I'm just saying that like cheaper.
Right?
Than, like,
no, it's like I do need to only stick to women who I am paying. But like, yeah, it would be a bad look if I went to go look up Sam's old friend or whatever.
So I'm just going to use it on like my current attorney, who like I'm like literally just using as a plaything and trying to like.
He does use her as a plaything, yeah. Like multiple times, he like uses her as a prop to mess with congressmen he think are being snooty.
Right, right, and the whole time he has been asking her like, "Oh, you want to go out to breakfast? You want to go out to dinner?" or any of this, and like he's leading her around. Like when she's like asking questions about the case, I'm like, you haven't been telling me these things. You're not being honest with me about this, and it's all like revealed to be like this, like, oh well, I knew to not tell you this because I wanted to use it as an opportunity to let you know who I was and like flirt with you, which is just like, well, I'm pretty sure, Leo, you've dealt with lawyers before, and I'm pretty sure they're on this type of thing when they meet each of their clients. Like they're pretty much, if you're doing this thing for a living, especially on the Hill, like you're going to be knowing.
It seems like you probably already lied to this woman a lot, because when she first sat down with you, she was probably like, "Hey, is there anything I need to know about what's going on? Is there anything you're not telling me?" And yeah.
But like, right, like just like how every woman's written in the series, like every Republican in this series is dumb except for Ainsley. Like Ainsley's the smartest Republican among all of them, but every woman who's a love interest in this show is fucking stupid.
Yeah,
like fucking just like over their head. Like unless like they're making like Joey Lucas like look a little bit smarter. Like Donna, they make like look smarter. Who? Thank God. But it's like then they also shit on her and make her
right. Well, yeah, and like Donna looks smarter in the very patronizing sense of Josh will occasionally go, "Oh, good point."
Yeah,
from this dumb blonde bimbo I keep at my desk or whatever.
The same way they wrote Ainsley too, who is also the most Republican around.
Exactly. The way she looked smart was like, oh, you're smart enough that Sam will actually like deign to engage with you. It's women's intelligence is always centered on the approval of men.
But anyway, after Leo books his creepy Christmas Eve dinner with his fucking lawyer who he's violating ethics.
Also, yeah, this lady doesn't have a family. Like
that's what I was thinking too. I'm just like, are you relying on her just to be like alone on Christmas Eve? Like what?
He has a daughter and grandkids, right? Like,
yeah,
I guess he doesn't necessarily have grandkids, but he has a daughter, right? Go have dinner with your daughter.
Like, right? Like he's just writing this like depressing person who's like Sorkin. Are you like writing for your? Like, are you going through the divorce now?
Like, I think people have comment. I've heard people close to the show comment that there was a bit of Sorkin in Leo.
Because I knew this dude.
Like Leo is divorced and like lives in a hotel. Sorkin was also getting divorced during this time and was living in a hotel.
Jesus.
Anyway. Bartlet's Christmas gift to Leo is that original ratty old cocktail napkin with Bartlet for America written on it, framed. And Leo kind of has a soft little breakdown to end the episode.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
Very sweet, very sappy ending.
Sweet sappy.
And that was a great episode. Just I think not a lot to like dig into.
Yeah, just great Leo moments. And honestly, it kind of gets back to the core of this. Like, it's like I hate the writing for this show, but it's like I love the acting. Like the actor, so it's just great ensemble crew, just killing it. And also, I have to mention this episode. You have a flashback to Mrs. Lanningham too. Yes,
Mrs. Lanningham. Yeah, yes. I think her show that she had left the series for had already been not picked up, unfortunately.
Damn.
Yeah. It's a rough business, Hollywood.
Yeah.
I think that those are our 2 episodes. Pretty good. I think we'll continue to see like the evolution of the season. In our next 2 episodes, HCon 172, episode 10, and episode 11, 100,000 airplanes.
Oh, 100. Oh, wow. Okay.
A lot of airplanes.
Like continuous ones, but I guess, folks. I mean, like, yeah, I guess we went on to the next one. I guess we'll see Sam act more like a food. I think because we're about like almost mid through the season. Like we're about a third through the season, right?
Yeah, 11 will be the halfway point. Or
okay.
there's 21 episodes. So
okay, all right. Well, I imagine there's going to be. Well, I don't know. It's hard to think about because I want to speculate. I want to speculate a little bit because I'm going to think that like because
hit me.
And 9/11 has like happened already, and like I think they're writing kind of past that, like with that in their mind. I think they're going to have like further. They're going to have further more conflicts that are like involved in like the Middle East or Africa. Like that'll be the concern. Like Islamic religious concerns like might be take more of a center stage with that too. That's what I'm predicting. In terms of character arc, it's like, yeah, they're gonna. I mean, I feel like they're gonna start like to wrap up and or maybe kind of ignore, or just like silently put to bed the Bartlet trials, which is basically like the remnants of like the Clinton impeachment stuff. Like I think Sorkin was gonna like write about that, but then 9/11 happened, and that became what the zeitgeist of America's mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Was that primarily all that other shit was like pretty primitive to that. So I think he's gonna try and like, hush away the try to like push the Bartlet thing along, which I'm honestly like, I'm on that too. Just like pushing the Bartlet thing along where it's like, yeah, you're going to let him get away with it. You're not going to fire Martin Sheen. So like, let's just keep it here. You're not going to make Hoynes the new leader of the West Wing. Like you're not going to let that guy lead the show. Martin Sheen's going to stay the guy. So we know that's not happening. So he's going to push that along and like, make that will he, won't he, and they're going to focus on the zeitgeist of America. That's my prediction.
Interesting predictions. We shall see how it all plays out when we reconvene next time on the Working Wing podcast, which I think will again be Thursday at 7 in the morning.
7 in the morning.
Bright and early. Bright-eyed, bushy tail.
That's how it is.
So until next time, everyone, keep working.
Keep on working.